Hi, I'm Napoleon Bonaparte, here to read you a little story. Superhero by Paul Franklin. It was a hot July night, and I was up late watching a documentary about worms. It's weird how those things will capture attention. I went to pour out the remainder of the wine, and I could see the faint shine of stars through this kitchen window. I poured the last swallow of wine down the sink and looked back outside, just in time to catch the distinct form of Mr. Tellus flying through the night sky. I nearly dropped the glass, but I managed to put it down on the counter and ran to the bedroom. Along the way, I grabbed my cell phone from the coffee table and touched the app for the police scanner. Every major city has at least one superhero. Ours is the famous Mr. Tellus. He can fly, he has some kind of seismic power, and he's one of the smartest men in the city. I listened to the weak speaker on my phone, straining to hear anything that would have necessitated the need for Mr. Tellus. I slipped on a pair of pants and a shirt. The police band was quiet, reporting drunken drivers and license plate hookups. Once I was fully dressed, I put in my earpiece so I could listen while I followed him. It was my job to keep up with the city's protector. Covering superheroes was dangerous, but I had the best gear and the pay was worth the risk. Risks that include breaking both of my legs and seeing the aftermath of a fight with a supervillain. At this time, I could only surmise it was a secret mission, or he was out on a normal patrol. But in my years of covering the supers, I could not recall Mr. Tellus ever going out on patrol. Our city felt safe with his protection. We had our fair share of supervillains wander through, but most of them ended up in the lockup or dead after tangling with our protector. He was moving slow enough that by the time I got outside, I could still see him above the houses in my cozy little part of the suburbs. I hopped in my electric car and sped off down the street. I kept a respectful distance behind Mr. Tellus. He was using the roads to navigate, so it wasn't difficult. I didn't want to get too close. He could be on covert mission or tracking something very dangerous. Either way, it pays to be careful and keep your distance from superheroes unless you have a good reason. The lack of chatter on the police band also made me think that I wasn't supposed to know our local hero was out on the town this evening. I've been to more than a few crime scenes where Mr. Tellus arrived too late to save the victim, but was forced to kill the attacker. My last field producer was killed when a flaming car dropped in our vehicle moments after I left to get the story. The job wasn't easy or pretty, but there was nothing else like it. After a couple of miles, I saw him pause and circle back over one area. I turned off the lights on my car and drove closer. His attention seemed focused on something, so I wasn't worried about him seeing me. When I was a block away, I parked my car and got out. I had a portable video camera with me that uploaded the station. I called the evening news producer and let him know what was happening. He turned on the remote feed and started reporting on his side. I had the police band turned down low in one ear and the producer for the station battling at me in the other. They would have a backup at the station in case something happened to my camera out in the field. I wouldn't be the first reporter to go down with the camera in my hand. Sneaking through the backyard of a suburban home that looked amazingly similar to every other house on the block, I came up behind Mr. Tellus. He was hovering about 30 feet in the air. I turned on the camera and began recording. I saw the remote feed indicator light up as the camera connected back to the station. He stood in the air, gazing at the ground below. I panned around him, searching the night for anything that might be an indication of trouble. Normally I wouldn't try to get this close to him, but there's no immediate danger. I figured I was safe behind the 6-foot wooden fence for now. I climbed on top of a plastic garbage bin to see what he was looking at so intently. Across the yard, a dark shape was creeping along the side of the next house. Clicking on the night vision mode, the camera didn't really help, but I could see what looked like a gun in the man's hand. I waited for Mr. Tellus to swoop down and take away the supposed mystery. I couldn't come up with any other reason why a person would be sneaking around outside a house with a gun in their hand. But Mr. Tellus waited, and because he waited, so did I. The supposed burglar came to a window that was open just a few inches. I panned back and forth between Mr. Tellus and the burglar, waiting for the explosion of action that would signal an end to the night's excitement. After some quiet work, the burglar was able to fit through the opening. The producer was yelling in my ear that I should alert Mr. Tellus to the burglar's progress. I didn't speak. I just turned down the volume. Mr. Tellus was clearly watching the man. A light snapped on inside the house. I had a clear view right into the bedroom of one of the occupants. Now I could see the gun in the assailant's hand. He pointed at the man who was getting up from the bed. That's when our hero exploded into action. Mr. Tellus doesn't have super speed, but with gravity and a bit of a boost from whatever made him able to fly, he crashed through the bedroom window and into the burglar almost faster than I could move the camera. The window glass shattered with that jarring sound in the quiet night air. The next sound was a sickening crunch of the intruder being sent to the far wall at a deadly speed. I zoomed in, and it was obvious the armed man was no longer alive. His neck must have broken on impact with the superhero because his head pulled in that weird way that it shouldn't. His body crumpled at a weird angle, indicating crushed rib cage and vertebra from the impact. It seemed like an excessive amount of force to use on a simple armed robber, but I wasn't a superhero, and no one would question his saving the day for the surprise occupant. The man staggered back from the sudden gust of wind, shattered glass, and then gaped at the now dead attacker embedded in the sheetrock of his bedroom wall. Moments passed. A smile broke out on his face along with a look of relief. He sat back on the bed, still watching Mr. Tellis as the superhero dusted glass fragments off himself. I whispered to my producer to call the police and use my GPS signal as the call-in location. That would get them close enough. The man extended a hand to Mr. Tellis. The hero reciprocated the handshake, then pulled the man towards him with a quick movement. The superhero placed one hand over the man's mouth while he used the other hand to pinch the man's nose closed. Rising into the air just a few inches, Mr. Tellis held the man suspended and at his mercy. I could hear the thud of the punches as the man tried to pummel a perfect physique of Mr. Tellis. The superhero didn't even flinch as each punch landed with less and less force. The voice of the producer in my ear went dead quiet as the man stopped punching, jerked spasmodically for a few seconds, and then went limp. The chaotic noise of the studio was gone. Someone on the other end of the connection whispered, "Oh my God." Mr. Tellis held the man in the air for another minute or two so before he tossed him onto the bed. Landing on the carpet, he took the gun from the would-be robber. Crossing back to the still form of the house's owner, he placed the gun directly in the man's chin and pulled the trigger. The muffled sound made me jump. On the other end of my connection to the studio, I could hear the producer calling the station to order. They were going live in less than a minute with the footage. It all came together in my mind. The 1 minute too late scenes. All of them where Mr. Tellis had to fight the assailant after the victim had died. How many times have there been scenes like this? I could hear the sirens in the distance. Mr. Tellis flew out of the window and out to the front of the house where he landed gently on the sidewalk. He waited for the authorities to arrive, not knowing that his heinous deed was even now going on the air and online. The headline was simple: superhero, serial killer.